Well, I guess that's pretty much a disaster, huh? They've been in the foyer. I think for the last. I think they're in the minister center right now. The song.
Did you hear about Sabres? You need to go load up on them, man.
I think they're already closed. All right. If I can have everyone's attention, we'd invite you to come in and have a seat, please. If I could have everybody's attention back in the foyers, we invite you to come in and please find your seat. We welcome you to our 65th celebration. We are certainly glad that you're here. If I could get some people to direct some traffic from the foyers and also close those doors, those glass doors, please. I would appreciate that very much. We do appreciate you being here today for our 65th birthday party. Several people have asked about the shirt that I'm wearing and that you see other people wearing. They are available in the ministry center if you would like to get one later on. We have plenty, I believe, if you would like to wear one of those and take one home. We do welcome you. We have very, very special guests here today. Of course, folks who are returning, more and more folks who are coming in. And we thank you for being a part of the legacy of the Levy Church over all of these years. Briefly, here's what we're doing. This morning, we're going to have conversations with our youth ministers, past and present, just ask them some questions about their time at Levy and about their ministry. And then during worship, former preachers here at Levy are going to be sharing some of their memories as they lead our worship. And so we're looking forward to that. To kick things off, Brother Gail Russell, who is a former member here at Levy, is going to come up and lead us in a song.
Just a few words before we sing. In 1952, my dad, Chester Russell, and two of his brothers, Jack and Oates, and Brother George Thompson, who was the first minister, had a stirring within themselves to start a congregation in the Levy area to spread the gospel. That stirring continued with the Levy congregation. It still does in the great mission efforts that y'all are involved in. But there's a stirring coming, folks, that is going to top all of those. And that's when Jesus comes again. Every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that Jesus is Lord. So let's be standing as we sing. There's a stirring deep within me. Could it be my time has come? When I see my gracious Savior face to face, when all is done, is at His voice I am hearing, come away, my precious one. Is He calling me?
feel just from one of the greatest youth ministers of all time. But I was actually myself. See, I was youth minister from the late 80s and early 90s, and to give you some indicator of success, Larry Dowdy was in my youth ministry. Great.
Unfortunately, we can't be there with you this morning on this special homecoming day, but we know that Levy is a special, special place. Building a strong family for the glory of God, and you have had an amazing impact on our family, and we know that you'll have a great service this morning.
Thanks for all that you've done.
If you didn't recognize those guys, it's Doug Hurst and Casey Ryan, and they are together at a retreat in Alabama, and they can't be with us. During our Bible class, it's time for us to celebrate our youth ministry history at Levy congregation. There's a long, rich history of youth ministers here. Unfortunately, only two of our former youth ministers are able to return with us today because of conflicts, but I do want to recognize and read off the youth ministers who have served here at the Levy congregation over the years. Richard Magoo, Coy Walters, Greeley Kilpatrick, Tommy Gaither, Dave Phillips, Doug Hurst, Mark Hodges, Brian Forney, Colby Neal, Aaron Davis, and Rachel Griffin, and Jesse Stacy. And we've also now had two children's ministers here at the Levy Church. The first one was Sherry Ratliff, and now we have Sierra Gustafson. So we're excited about the history of youth ministry at Levy. I've heard all kinds of stories and all kinds of tales about times past and the youth trip. I've heard them from the youth ministers themselves. I've also heard them from kids who've grown up in the youth ministry. And I'm looking forward to hearing some stories and some memories this morning. So we'd like to invite you guys to come up here, Tommy and Mark and Jesse and Rachel. Take it first. I want to introduce these guys, of course. First is Tommy Gaither. And Tommy served as a lead youth minister from 1980 to 1985. Just a part of his 52-year ministry career over several states. He has always had a strong mission emphasis, serving in many countries in short-term mission efforts. Tommy currently serves as outreach minister for the Walnut Church in Texarkana, and also serves the Texarkana State Police as a diplomat chairman. He's married to Wanda, and they have 2 sons and 6 grandchildren. Now, Tommy and I have a little shared history, and it has to do with Lithuania. Of course, I've been working in Lithuania for 20 years now, and I met Tommy basically over there. And before I ever knew anything about the Levy congregation, Tommy was coming over working in Belarus and bringing kids over to the camp that we had in Moleti, Lithuania. And Tommy said, the only way that we're able to do this is because of this church in North Little Rock called Levy. And Levy was helping fund the Belarusians coming over to our camp. They had to get visas and travel and through the harvest funds. And so Tommy and I got to know each other, and it's been a wonderful friendship. Tommy, we're going to start with you. Tell us about your time at Levy. What memories do you have?
Well, we have had a great time here at Levy. When I was youth minister, Mark was in the group. We had a lot of good young people. One of the things we did while we were here, we started the Lads to Leaders and the Leaderettes program. And we had a lot of people that were involved. When I stepped aside from youth ministry into education ministry and Dave Phillips came on as the youth minister, the elders wanted me to mentor him for a little while, but take over and work in the education area. We had 3 years running. Our 8th grade boys won the speech competition. 1 year, they had 50 8th graders, and they divided them into 5 different groups of 10. And the top 2 out of each group got to compete again in the final competition. And one of my children, Andy, was in that group. So when they started with the top 5, I thought, well, that really wasn't in my top 5, that person. And then they said, well, the top 3. And I said, well, one of those guys was in my top 3. Finally, they called out Andy Gaither, number 1. Out of 58th graders, I beat him to the stage to take his picture. He was a little slower then, and I was a little fat. Well, we had a great group of people that went to different places. We went to Opryland Hotel. One time we went to Memphis. We went to New Orleans, and the boys and the girls got to compete in the Superdome. Now, that's something that they can take with them for a long, long time. One of the other things that we did while we were here, we also went to Youth in Action in December every year. We competed with congregations like Seven Hills over at the church in Little Rock, where Leon is now. That year we had about 100 people, sponsors and youth, to go from Levy. Well, Benny Biddle over at Seven Hills had about 100 people from Seven Hills. Mike Harris was youth minister at Sixth and Izzard, and he had a little over 100 people. So out of 3 churches in this area, we had 300 plus at Youth in Action that year. So there are a lot of things that went on during our youth ministry, and I didn't mention, I think Mark won one of those years as one of the speakers in the youth and in our youth ministry. And we started with 6th graders and all the way up through senior high. But Youth and the Last Leaders program was a great program for us. And you already mentioned our work in Belarus. I have been to Belarus, Russia 29 times. Met Danny over in Lithuania. He said, come over and help us. So I asked the Levy Church, would they help us with some finances from their harvest funds to go over to Lithuania. We had to have double entry visas, double exit visas. When we went by train. It was about a 4-hour train ride from Belarus, from Minsk, Belarus, a city of 2 million people. We took the train, went over to Lithuania, and our kids got off the train, and the first thing they spotted was the big M. They said, can we go to McDonald's? We ate at McDonald's, and met Danny, and we had a worship service. We left Belarus early enough to get to Lithuania to have worship with them, and then after that, catch a bus ride for about another hour and a half up to Moleti. And we did that for about 10 years. Levy supported us that whole time, and we appreciate so much all that you've done for us. We love coming back to Levy, the church in Walnut, where I work now as outreach minister with all of our missions, and we have missions in the States and missions all over the world. I just turned in my budget for next year for our mission areas, and we're looking close to $50,000 in missions, and so that's small to what Levy does, but we appreciate all that you did for us. One of our elders, I called and said, I'm not going back to Lithuania right now, so you can take those funds and put those over to somebody else. One of the elders said, don't do that. Don't tell them that. I said, well, yeah, I'm not going to take the money if I'm not going. Questions?
We're moving on.
Moving on.
I'm going to introduce Mark to you. Mark worked at Levy from 1992 to 1996, and he worshiped here longer than that, from 1972 to 2006. He's married to Tamara, and they have 2 children. He's currently the Senior VP and General Manager of Enterprise Sales and Client Management for Info Group Targeting Solutions. And Mark, are you an elder at Pleasant Valley now?
I am, yes.
New elder at Pleasant Valley.
Which feels like an old elder at this point. It's been a year. I feel like I've been doing it for 20 years now.
Now, y'all guys look a little bit different than your pictures up there. Can you explain that?
You know, yeah, actually, it's pretty interesting. I was in my garage last night. I still have the circular saw that I used to part my hair for that picture. So, pretty exciting. So, yeah, I remember that directory and egad.
Yeah, just share your memories and the impact of Levy's.
So I think of the impact of Levy's youth ministry every day with every blood pressure pill I take. I'm on blood pressure medication, and after all the fast food, I take cholesterol meds. So thanks to the youth ministry for that. That's awesome. But I did realize something that I need to do, and I guess I can do it with you, Danny, if that's okay. I was getting my keys this morning and realized I still have my building keys and the keys to the old bus's gas cap. So I'm going to turn these in officially. It's only been like 21 years, so now everybody knows I've turned in all my old keys. And interestingly enough, when I think of my time at Levy, I've got so many rich memories. So I'm not going to get waxed too nostalgically because the older I get, the more I cry. And I'm totally okay with that, but I'm not going to do that this morning, or at least I'm going to try not to. I've got two sides of the coin when it comes to the youth ministry here. The first side is from me going through it. I have to thank Tommy Gaither because he mentioned he started the Lads to Leaders program here. Tommy helped me find a talent that God gave me. You know how it is when sometimes you realize the talent, when God teaches the parable of the talents and you realize, hey, maybe this is a talent he's given me. Tommy helped me find that, so thank you, brother. It's been a lifelong blessing for me to be able to just get up and talk to people and to feel comfortable doing it. And it took me a long time to accept that as a talent, but I thank God for that. Through the youth ministry, I had a lot of great memories, but my heritage here goes deep. I look across the crowd, I see so many faces who have shaped me. You were part of the tapestry of my life in making me who I am and making my family who they are. So I owe every one of you a thank you because you have impacted my life, and I'm getting misty. So let me talk about my time as a youth minister, which was, it was a blast. It was great. It was the early 90s. Grunge was just coming in, which meant some of you will remember we had a lot of people dressing that way, and that troubled some people. But we had a great youth group. We went, we did all the typical youth group stuff, but when I think of things that are truly memorable, I have to think about that old bus. Where's Gary? There you are. All right. So Gary and I have been broken down across the fruited plain in that bus. And I'm so glad to give those keys back to you now, okay? I think I threw the actual bus keys away because I just didn't want to have anything else to do with it. I'll share two quick things that are going to trouble you, all right? One is a ski trip that we took. Many, many years ago. Don Allen Frost, who may be hunting, is he here? He may be pointing a gun. There he is. All right. So Don Allen Frost and I we were good friends, weren't we? Until that trip. I decided, hey, we're doing a ski retreat because you can do anything at church as long as you call it a retreat, right? We're going to have a gambling retreat. We're going to Vegas and we're going to study the Bible. But we decided we're taking a ski retreat. So and honestly, there's one reason why I chose this place. There's a place in Colorado at the time, it was called Purgatory, and I thought, taking a church trip to Purgatory, oh yeah, we're doing that. And the promotion was just great. I had so many things that I wanted to do with that. The snow's going to melt, all that stuff. And to do that, though, most of you know, in parts of Colorado, if you travel, you have to have chains with you. Well, putting chains on a bus is not an easy proposition. So Don Allen and I get out in the parking lot. We roll the bus up on 2x4s. We practice putting the chains on the bus, and we were ready. We were ready until the end of that first day of skiing. Tom, you were with us, too. Where's Tom Cloninger? You were with us. And we were driving back down the mountain. What I didn't plan for was the blizzard that hit that day. And we were driving down the mountain from Purgatory to where we were staying in Durango. And Don Allen and I, being the experts that we were at like 24, we got out and the snow was blowing in and we thought, do we need the chains? I don't really want to put the chains on. Do we need the chains? Nah, we don't need the chains. We needed the chains. And we are driving down that mountain. The bus windshield is freezing up. I can't see. I put my ski goggles on and hung my head out the window driving the bus. Don Allen is trying to wipe the window, watching for me. And what the kids never realized, and what I never told the parents, but I will tell you now because the statute of limitations is over and everyone's alive, there was a point coming down that mountain where the bus was in fact sideways, sliding down the mountain. And nearer my God to thee. That's what was going through my head at that point. I mean, and we made it down. And let me tell you, we had a retreat that night, okay? I mean, it was a beautiful thing. Only other thing I'll share, just because these are, some of you were on that trip and you're thinking, we were sideways on that trip? Really? We were on a mission trip. We went out to New Mexico for several years. It was one of our favorite trips to do. And, working on the Pueblo, we met up, it was one of the years we actually met up with Doug and Dee when they were out in Amarillo. And we merged our groups. It was a great trip. And on our way back, that bus had an alternator that came from one spot in the country. It had to ship out of Houston. And I don't know why. It's burned on my gray matter. But that alternator chose to go out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Several facets of this you need to understand. One, the next day was my anniversary. I missed it, okay? Not cool to miss your anniversary, okay? That was not a call I wanted to make, but I made it, and it was one of those things. It went out. They had to fly one in, so we were going to be stuck. All right, fine. So I start calling hotels, and then we realize, the Pope is in Albuquerque, and there are no hotels. We struggled. I think we broke so many fire laws, so many fire codes, because I think we might have found 3 rooms. And we had kids sleep vertically, okay? I mean, it was unbelievable how much we had to cram people in. But finally we got it. We got out of there. Just a lot of fun times, Usually misery is when you create a lot of bonds. We had some misery, so that was good. So,
thank you, Mark. Well, Jesse Stacy is currently one of our youth ministers. Jesse is a local boy from North Little Rock, was converted at Silver City Courts, and now he's back here working with us at Levy. He's been working with us since 2011. Jesse's wife is Leslie, and they have 2 young kids. Jesse, of course, we work together, and I see you work every day. Share what's on your heart.
All right. So 2011, I kind of came over here and started working at Levy on Wednesday nights just to help out. Casey needed some help. They paid me a small little bit to just come over on Wednesdays and hang out. And I really was needing help because I worked at Silver City and I didn't make enough money. I was kind of supporting myself, trying to raise money to get support and stuff. So I was like, I need to find another church to go to so I can ask people for money. So that's just me being honest. I came over to Levy to find some people to ask for some money to help me kind of missionary at Silver City. And so I got in there on Wednesday nights and started working with kids at all times. And Casey was slowly transitioning out. And I just kind of felt the call that I wanted to kind of be at Levy. And so I hung around. Aaron Davis came in. Me and him worked together for a while. And I kind of got hired on full time at that point, just kind of as a second youth minister. And then after he left, they put me on full time. And I mean, it is truly the most incredible part of my life, really. Like, I mean, I just love it so much. I love being here. I love being a part of this family. Me and Leslie couldn't be happier. Some youth ministers are in and out in a few years or whatever, but I just this is my home. Sometimes me and Danny talk about we're staff or whatever, but the other thing is I'm a member too. This is my church. I care about decisions we make for the long haul because there'll be a day when I'm not the youth minister and I'm here at this church. and stuff like that. So, I really care about all those things a lot. I don't see myself just transitioning somewhere else. Because I am a hometown boy. This is where I grew up. This is where my family is. This is my home. I guess I want to share a memory, since they did. I was trying to think of a memory I wanted to share. The one that just really stands out in my youth ministry. I feel like I'm still making tons of memories, and it's kind of hard to look back just a few years and talk about how cool a memory was. But one of my favorite memories we've done is we went to Dallas and we did a homeless simulation. And some of my teens obviously remember that too. We grumble about it, but the thing is I love, anytime I go backpacking, any of that stuff, I love to go backpacking with my teens. I love to do hard things. I love, like last time we went backpacking, it thunderstormed. And like trees were falling over in the woods and you felt like you were going to die. And it was so awesome because it makes memories. It's a cool story to tell. I want to tell cool stories. I don't want nothing to go wrong. We want the van to slide down the mountain. I want that. I want to be able to tell that story. And so this homeless simulation is like, it was such a good story. You look back and talk about how much you hated it, but I would love to go do it again because it was such a good story. I want to have good stories for the kingdom of God, most importantly. With this, there were three things that happened on this that I just thought were hilarious. So as the part of the homeless simulation, you got to pick one item you brought with you. Your clothes on your back and one item you brought with you. And we're going to have to sleep outside, so obviously the obvious choice should be like a blanket or a pillow. Those are the obvious choices. But my man Jeff Dalby, guys, we're talking homeless simulation for like 48 hours. My man Jeff Dalby picks deodorant. And I was like, you could have put some on right before that. Degree says 48-hour protection. You could have put some on right before that and then picked your blanket. And so instead, he's out there like, Jesse, can I get some blanket with you? No, you can't. I picked the blanket. I made the good decision. You can't share my blanket. The other thing that I thought was just really awesome on the trip is like the bonding we got to do. We're just spending the night outside. And the bonding we got to do, because we don't have any cell phones, obviously, and stuff. And so we're just kind of hanging out, talking, like throwing rocks. And it's miserable. And we just like bonded really well over this trip because there were no distractions. It was just this. And the second night we had fake money and we got to pay to go inside. That was actually worse because it was a tile floor and it was like freezing cold inside the building and like nobody picked blankets really. So everybody was trying to get under like 4 blankets we had. And I would have rather slept outside. The last part of this that I just thought was really humorous was like we got a lot of interaction the next day with the homeless community coming inside the gates. We slept inside a gated thing, so it was safe. But they opened the gates, and like a lot of the homeless community comes inside this place, and we got to meet and talk with them a lot, and it was really, really enlightening, really good. We helped clean up their area some. But this one lady was sitting there, and she was talking to, I can't remember exactly who it was. There was a group of us she was talking to, and she got us distracted trying to fix this water thing, and she decided to let me grab this sleeping bag y'all got, and I'm going to steal this. So somebody had decided the one item they're going to pick is a sleeping bag, and this lady decides to take it. And it's like, it's just memories and stories and funny. We look back on it, and it was like, that was miserable at the time, but I think this youth ministry stuff is I want to give my kids stories and memories, and especially memories and stories in the kingdom of God.
Thank you. Rachel Griffith has been working in our youth ministry as one of our youth ministers since 2014. Rachel served as an intern here while she was a student at Harding University. Then she went a year in the China Now program as a missionary in China, and then came back to Levy 1 year as an apprentice, I believe, right? And then in 2014, she became officially one of our youth ministers, and she's been particularly a blessing to our young ladies in the youth ministry. Rachel, tell us about your work with the girls.
Well, as Danny said, I was an intern in 2013 and then was asked to come back, and I was really excited about that opportunity to continue working with the youth group at Levy and with this church because I just felt so plugged in at this church from my internship. I loved the elders, I loved the families, I loved the youth group, and so I was really excited for that opportunity. Since being back here, I've been heavily involved with the girls in the youth group and just loved it. I love looking at their faces. They're my friends. I have relationships with them and just built those relationships over the years. I've done a girls' Bible study with them in the early morning at 6:30 a.m., so props to those girls that get up early and come to Starbucks and study the Bible together. There's always a good group of girls there who love to grow, love to learn, and love to study together. I've done a lot of other things. I try to encourage the girls to always be involved in church activities and in the ladies' events at church. I try to help them get plugged in with mentors and people from the church who they can learn from and build relationships with. That's always a great goal, just plugging them into the church body, not just into the youth group. And I have several girls that I do more one-on-one Bible studies with or time with, and I love those. I love seeing them grow and learn and show their faith and develop their faith in that. Some of the boys in our pride groups on Wednesday night, I've seen great leadership in them in like trying to help lead their discussion groups and read verses and ask questions. And I just love watching the teens grow in these ways and lead and learn and just learn to love God.
Thank you. Now I want to ask Tommy and Mark, is there one, I know it's hard to narrow something down, but is there one or a couple of things you can say we got about a little 8 minutes or so left, the impact of Levy, working here at Levy and what you've taken? Has there been anything that you've taken with you that you've learned, that you've applied to your current works and where you are?
One of the things that Leon and I had met way back in Mississippi when my first work at Mississippi and the New Hope Church. Leon was at Christian Chapel. We were about 5 miles apart. And so both of us were on party lines way back then. So if you wanted to talk to somebody, we were talking one day, Leon called and said, "Hey, I need some help with a funeral. Would you help?" Right in the middle of the conversation, some guy said, "Who was that y'all said died?" So we had party lines everywhere. We also had opportunities, as Leon was on the board here, school board in North Little Rock. We were invited. About that time, teachers were having to go to PET, Program for Effective Teachers. Gail remembers this. And so we decided we would ask if we could go and play like we were teachers. We were not certified teachers. Some of the teachers didn't want to go through the program, and they thought, "Y'all are crazy. You want to go through the program?" We went through the PET program, implemented a lot of the things here in the education program because of the PET program. We were taught by two ladies. One was vibrant. She walked in the room and she could light up the room. And one was very quiet. So we learned that no matter who you are and no matter what your personality is, you can be a good teacher. So we learned a lot of the things from there. I remember some of those teachers taking some of the things that they learned. Finally, after 8 weeks, several days a week, the elders let us go to that program. Finally, they introduced us as people who were not certified teachers, and we had 25 or 30 people in that class. One day the teacher said, "I see that you're not very shy." And I thought, "Do what? Me?" And she said, we're going to be T2O today. We're going to be teaching to the objective. Every now and then during the daytime, would you just say, "Hey, my brother ran track at Old Main." All day long. Every so often I'd jump up or say something like this. She came back, she'd say, "Now wait a minute, Tommy, we'll get to you in a few minutes." Well, that taught a great lesson on teaching to the objective. PET program. I don't know whether they still do it or not, but it's a good program, and Levy used a lot of it. Ozzie Murphy was here at that time, and we used Ozzie as our principal to get in to teach some of the children so that when we had to bring them into the class, they'd know who we were. So we were trying this off the cuff, so to speak. But those two ladies also attended Levy on occasion just to see how we were implementing those things into the program. I didn't mean to take up all your time.
No, that's okay. So thank you for being. Just what I've learned from Levy that I take with me, that kind of. So I'm gonna kind of wrap this up and frame it in like 2 or 3 minutes, if that's okay. Many of you who have been here a long time know that I lost my dad a week before I turned 12. I would be a wreck if it were not for this community that meets here. It's that simple. You helped raise me. You helped make me who I am. You taught me the Bible. You taught me to love God. You taught me to be close to Him. I think most importantly, you taught me to pursue Him. And I really thank you for that. I look out, I see so many people I love. People who went through the fires of youth ministry with me. When I think of the first time Jim Coy took me to Hunan and we ate hot and sour soup, and I was about to peel my skin off, and he talked me down. When I think about all the times that Mark Deal settled me down and helped me, there were so many people. Youth ministry was not going to happen without people like that. You guys helped me through it, but you also, more than anything, you gave me a sense of community. You gave me a community of believers. And I think when I think of the thing that I find most comforting about my time at Levy that I take with me every day, it is the fact that you taught me something pretty simple. You taught me to pursue God and to believe the Bible. Wow. If only everyone in the world could get that. So thank you for that. I mean, that's it's pretty simple. And you taught me, hey, just read the Bible. You don't have to make it tough. And that's kind of awesome. So I'm very appreciative. When I think about the things I take from my years here, it's really kind of a culmination of my time here as just as someone who attended, but also as Gary used to say, when I was paid to be good and not just good for nothing. I'm thankful because you equipped me to be a youth minister. You really did. It was really kind of cool to grow up and to be part of this community of believers. So if I would tell you, don't ever lose one thing. Don't lose that sense of community. I mean, when you've got things on the wall, you're building a strong family. Let me tell you, it really is that. You really are a family, and it is. It really does stick with people throughout life. And I can tell you, my faith is what it is today because of this community. So many thank yous from me, and God bless you for that.
Thank you, Mark. Good way to end. We're going to ask James Telgren. Where are you, James? To come up and lead us in prayer. James is on staff here as our equipping minister. And I would like to recognize very quickly our other ministers who have served here in different capacities over the years. It's listed here. Jerry McGowan, who is an associate minister. Hugh Hale, personal evangelist and benevolence. And Hugh is on staff now, but Hugh's not feeling well. So I'm not sure if he will be with us. He said he may try to come out during worship. Billy Watson also served as counseling and education. Gary Neal, beside preaching, did numerous ministries here. Gary said they kept moving him around. He came here and they didn't know what to do with him. And so they kept moving him around and here and there until finally he ended up preaching, but he was in prison ministry. Alan Pogue, who's one of our shepherds now, was in counseling and education. Jose Martinez, Hispanic ministry. Suzanne Dillard was in women's ministry. James Telgren, Education, Small Groups, and Hospitality. Paula Morris and Barbara Cooper serve in the women's ministry. And so we're blessed to have had and have different people using their gifts in different ways here at Levy. So we're going to be dismissed with James, and then we can visit until worship.
Let's pray. God, we come before you this morning very thankful for the legacy that you've built here at Levy. We thank you for everybody that's behind me on the stage and everybody that's worked particularly with our youth, with our teens over the years, that they've built this legacy that spanned generations. God, I pray that you be with the hearts of those who work with our kids now, that you strengthen and encourage them in the work that they do to realize how impactful that their work is. In your Son's blessed name we pray. Amen.